Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX, right here with a special treat at Fox Raceway today. We're getting our hands on TM's 2019 250 Fi. Personally, I really like boutique brands. I'm a big fan of cycling, so there's certain brands you see in mountain biking, road cycling that have this allure. They're different, they're not normal, they're not what everybody has, and there's a certain bit of an excitement to having something in that lineage. Being that I've never ridden a TM, I really didn't know what to expect coming into it. Naturally, when I see a bike like this that is handmade, made in small units, there just hasn't been as many of them, I would think, okay, there's probably attributes about this bike that are really good, but are there gonna be some that are gonna be questionable? And what really impressed me initially riding the bike, just even from the moment I first sat on the pits, is well-rounded. It's a little bit on the heavier side in the main 250 class, but that weight placement is really great. It's, as we always talk about, kind of that centered balance, real low in the frame weight. It makes it really easy to roll and control. Ever since aluminum frames really arrived on the scene 15, now almost 20 years ago, there's always been this little bit of war between getting the right amount of grip, but also having enough feel in the chassis that basically the bike doesn't chatter and beat you up everywhere. And what I think the TM really has going for it is a very comfortable chassis, a good amount of natural flex. Everything from little square edge coming into corners to ruts with big hooks in them to some of the G-outs we have on the landings here at Pala. It was able to take a little bit of that harshness off what I felt on some of the other bikes in the class. As for the suspension, the front forks are basically spec'd almost identical to the same KYB units you'd find on a Yamaha. And in turn, they feel very normal on the track. There's no real complaints. I did go a little bit stiffer just for bottoming resistance reasons, but your initial to mid-stroke was extremely comfortable. It had great feel. What I was really impressed with is how easy it lays in and rolls through those hooks. It takes a lot of that edge off when you slam into the hook. This bike is able to roll into that hook and continue to carry through and settle really well into the rut. I was really curious what I'd find with a hand-built engine like what comes on the TM here. The actual architecture of the engine is a little bit different than we see anything else in the class. While the airbox is at the front where the fuel tank used to be, it still routes over the top of the engine to a throttle body that is mounted at the back, going down into what we would consider more of a traditional intake to exhaust port layout. From there though, the exhaust port does split and it has twin exhaust systems, which are produced by HGS. So the bike basically comes with an aftermarket build system instead of a stock or OEM manufactured version. The overall power output is quite broad, but where it really stands out is the mid-range, enough that I would put it ahead of a few of the other 250Fs out there in that regard. The initial isn't quite as crisp as some of the bikes we've come to find last couple years, but it has a good amount of roll and torque, but where it really starts to shine and pull is this really usable mid-range. And even at the top end, it doesn't continue to pull into a really high screaming RPM like one or two of the other bikes out there in this class. But what it does do really well is keep a very free feel at high RPMs. The bike doesn't feel loaded up. It doesn't build up all this energy and start to basically make the chassis react to it. So it's a very fun bike to ride in the mid-range. Outside of the KYB forks, Brembo front brake, Brembo hydraulic clutch, and the Nissin rear brake, everything on this bike is uniquely TM. Yes, this is the spec we rode here is the one that TM USA orders, and there's usually a few sitting around if you want to buy one now. But from there, if you want a really unique experience, you can also hit them up and order it with a carbon fiber fuel tank and subframe, Ram airbox, kickstart, electric start. You need to order with different gear ratios, different transmission, 5, 6 speed, different triple clamps. You can buy the bike as you want it without having to go out and spend the money to get different upgrades. You can order it kind of like a car, just hit those check boxes. And at the end of the day, you're gonna unload a bike at the track that's uniquely made for you, or is just flat out gonna have a different experience. It's still gonna be competitive, it's gonna be fun, but I think you're gonna have a bigger smile on your face.